Okay, so where we had further discussion is, okay, so what do we do? The recommendation is gonna be to reject them and rebid. I don't have a schedule for the rebid yet, but what will change to make it more enticing is to move the completion to prior to Thanksgiving of next year. Okay, so that's gonna hopefully give anybody enough time to get the supplies, get all the equipment, and get in here and get it done. Okay, so that essentially addresses one of the contractors who didn't bid, addresses the timeline factor. Okay. Another thing that's going to change is how the contractors bid on it. You guys didn't see the bid package, but just about everything on there associated with pole and anything to do with the traffic light essentially was a lump sum. Okay, all the contractor had to do was just put a price to the bottom. There were a few unit price items in there, and that was essentially the concrete. All concrete work was unit price, so by the square yard, all that stuff. So the engineer recommends we pull out quite a few number of items that were in the lump sum and make them unit prices. Believes we'll get better prices if we do that. And then reduce the maintenance bond. The concrete was 4 years. Reduce it to 2 years, which is still fine, but there is still a lot of uncertainty in what that concrete work entailed. So the engineer is going to create actual sheets that detail the concrete work, so those that give a price for it have a better understanding of what they're getting into. They felt it was a little too vague because they didn't really know what they were getting into. So that's the recommendation: extend the completion, look at more unit prices, and reduction in the maintenance bond. And hopefully, you know, it's still a crapshoot. That's why we struggled with it a little bit. Because it's still a crapshoot, because there isn't a whole lot of these types of contractors around here, and especially in our area. And then you run the risk of offending somebody who already put a price in. So it was a lot to weigh, but I think the best option is to reject it and take it back out.
I don't mind offending when there's one bidder and we're saving tax dollars.
Yeah.
My only concern is, I'm not saying that I don't take your recommendation, but everybody in almost every project we hear, including but not limited to the school, firehouse, you know, your costs, wastewater, water, they're only gonna keep going up. So is kicking this can down the road worth the possible savings up against inflation and up against availability of materials? That's kind of concerning to me, because the guy on the east side of the state, he's not going to move closer, so he's still on the east side of the state. Kind of a crapshoot. I don't know. I mean, is there any way, like with
We did
RO, the city went ahead and bought a lot of the materials ahead of time to try to stop some of this built in. We got to build in this price just in case stuff goes up.
Well, I don't think Jason's proposing kicking the can that far down the road, are you, Jason?
5 months, right?
Well, it'd be moving it to
Well, the
where
completion
we
date would be
wanted
a year.
completion done this year. It would be completion done in next year.
But you're still thinking about rebidding in the next couple months, right?
But it won't change the availability and the cost of the possibility of costs going up.
Well, I think, if we rebid it and maybe there's 2 bids or 3 bids, whatever it could be,
Give them more time.
it would allow them to get, at least if we push it back into 26, but we bid it this year, it would allow them to get those drawings approved and those poles
Okay.
ordered, and at least have them ready.
Paid for.
We're ready for them to
Right,
start
okay.
doing it.
What'd you mean by 4-year concrete, or what did you mean by that?
Well, when we do maintenance bonds on city projects, it's broken down into 2 or 4 years. We require the contractor to guarantee their work. So say like storm sewer and water are 2 years, and sanitary and concrete are 4 years. It's like a warranty.
Okay,
Sometimes we have those, sometimes we don't.
okay.
Most of the materials, primarily speaking about poles, manufactured where?
I don't know.
Okay.
China.
That's,
Well, I'm thinking the electronic side, not really the
Well,
pole side.
yeah, either one, really, all the materials.
Even the steel, you know, with
Right.
market volatility right now, it's like, when's that gonna settle down?
Right,
It's a crapshoot on all.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I can look into, Clark, we can look into what things could we order.
Right, and pay for it and have, I mean, as long as 2 years from now when they're doing it, or next August in 26, they go,
They're not
these are obsolete and we can't use them, and it's like, oh, you know, that's what, yeah. But anyway, I was just thinking to take that inflationary factor out of the equation. Is there a possibility that the city could actually buy those materials, the raw materials?
And I was gonna say, when you were saying that, we did get a comment from General Traffic, which works on some of these things. Their opinion was that this price wasn't far off.
It wasn't too bad.
No. So that's what, that caused another struggle. I mean, we could just accept it the way it is and say that's what it's gonna cost and do it, because the polls aren't getting any better.
Well, that's my.
Or take the chance of rejecting it, rebid, maybe you get the same price, maybe you get one other contractor.
But just so
We just don't know.
everyone here is clear, your rebid is in the next couple of months.
Right.
Yeah,
With a
For
longer
completion
deadline,
and-
with a farther out deadline. I mean, that's what,
yeah.
and possibly explore the fact that we'd be willing to buy.
And I don't know if that would speed things up though, Clark, because,
It would lock a price is what it would take, because in your explanation, you said this guy had built in a certain amount, because we don't know from when you get it awarded, when you get it designed, if the price goes up 180,000 on 3 poles, he's built that in. And I'm just, okay, whatever, you get the general idea.
yeah, and the biggest thing, the immediate thing I can think of for why that might not work is, so the way it would work is, the contractor would contact the pole manufacturer, okay? The contractors say, I need this kind of pole. The manufacturer would create a shop drawing, essentially, specs. Send that to the contractor would submit it to the engineer, and the engineer would say, yes, that's
That
what we're
works,
looking for.
that works, okay.
Get back to the contractor calls the manufacturer, says, that works, well, I'll order 8 of them,
Right.
okay? So if we purchase that, who's gonna do all that work? I mean, who is the one?
Your point
That's what I
being,
mean.
you might end up buying the wrong pole.
Well, that's what I was
Well-
thinking, you tie their hands, it's kind of like calling your car guy and saying, I'll buy the part online, and then the car guy's not gonna.
Well, our only check is the engineer.
Right,
I mean, they're the ones who spec a specific type of pole, so if they contact the manufacturer and say, this is the pole we need, they're the ones that are gonna review those drawings, no matter what, even if it comes from manufacturer or contractor, whoever, right? So I'll check in to see how much of these things we could order, and if there is a true cost savings, because that same process I just explained is gonna happen either way.
Right.
So whether something can be ordered earlier one way or earlier the other way, that might not be.
Well, if extending the deadline helps to get, I'm fine with that recommendation, I really am.
Okay.
What's Knight think? I mean, I thought they were gonna fall over here one of these days.
His worry is just that the poles are terrible.
But
I thought he also said Premier was gonna pull fiber between the poles once upon a time. Did that never happen?
That's gonna happen with this.
I see that's in there, but I thought it was already getting done. No?
I don't think so, no.
Lacy conduit,
So,
word in.
So if it were a one-man decision, what would Jason do?
I'd reject it
Okay.
and just make it the same price.
Could be worse, could be better. It's
We
just-
could get the same price, but whatever, it's gonna be done next year.
Absolutely.
How much, so we'd essentially be pushing most of this cost into the next fiscal year?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, it's
I would
our,
anticipate so that the timeframe would be after ice cream days, but before Thanksgiving. So
In
that's the timeframe.
26.
Yep.
Yeah, the point is just, how does this affect our lost fund?
right, I mean, majority of it was gonna hit in the FY '26 anyways, whereas you could have majority of it hit in FY '26, depending on the ordering of all the equipment. You might have to order it ahead of time.
Yep.
And pay
I'm
for it?
assuming we're gonna have, when we award to whoever, they're gonna order a lot of things and wanna get paid for ordering those things.
Okay, so if we were to accept just alternate, the base unit price, alternate one, the 1.3, how does that affect us lost-wise in FY, what are we in, FY '26? I mean, does it create a problem
Right
for
now-
us?
Right now, we're FY '25. I can't
For FY
imagine-
25, okay.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'd order anything in the next 60 days, well, 40 days. So, we would
Yeah,
have
it'd
to
probably-
know.
it'd
So
probably-
it would all hit in FY '26 anyways.
Yeah.
We've got, well, we don't have the 1.3 in there, we've got the, like 900,000 in there for this project, so.
So even if they'd order something and then bill us, there's still that lag between when you pay them.
Yeah, but again, I'm just, are we committing more lost funds than,
I mean.
would we be committing more lost funds than what we have, basically?
Well, I mean, you're gonna commit
Or-
more
or-
than what we have.
or for other
budgeted.
projects, yeah.
I mean, you're gonna commit more than what we had budgeted.
Yeah.
On just this one project alone.
And
We
in terms
have-
of the next fiscal year, lost money that's committed?
We have enough cash on hand that could cover it
Okay.
without an issue. It's just whether or not you want to.
Let's ask those two engineers back there. Even though you're not involved. No, I'm not gonna do that.
All right.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Then I would seek a motion. And I'll seek a motion to reject all bids for the downtown traffic signal modernization project.
Yeah, I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Moving on, discussion. Jason, anything else?
No, I don't need to say anything. No, I don't have anything.
Nothing? Joe?
I don't have anything else to.
Mark?
Last night, it was brought up again about the mural at the Olson Center. I'd like to see us keep the pressure on that and make sure that gets done.
But he doesn't get paid.
Well, maybe we need to offer to pay someone else.
Or yeah, I didn't quite understand all that, but yeah, that is.
Well, he hasn't been paid.
Come on up
He
and-
he hasn't
Yeah.
been
No,
paid
he
for what
doesn't
he's
work
already
well.
done.
That's the point. There is
Yeah,
no-
he hasn't been paid for what he's already done.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
my
well,
understanding
then
last
we're-
night. Yeah, he
That
has not
happens in
been paid.
business, you just negotiate where he's at, and then you start over with someone else, but go ahead.
Hi, Lori French, Chamber Executive Director. Even though it's not under the chamber, I did talk to Rich last night about it, because he was also at the meeting. He's gonna reach out to the artist and find out what we're gonna do about this, because he has contacted him almost every single year about this. He always says he'll get it, we give him a deadline before ice cream days. It hasn't been done yet. You guys brought that up to me when I was talking to you, so I did reach out to Rich again, and then I saw him last night. So he is going to do that. He has not received any funding at all on the project, so.
So you keep using he, even
The
though you're talking
artists.
about two different he's, so
Well, the artist,
has not been paid?
nope.
But was he under agreement to be paid? I mean, why hasn't he been paid?
I don't know what the agreement was.
I
It was
guess if I'm him and I
for,
wasn't paid for what I've done so far, I probably wouldn't show up either, so this is starting to sound like a no-brainer.
Well, except some of
I
those
don't think
paint
he's-
cans that were left to dry out, now that can't be used, you know, we shouldn't have to pay for paint that you're not using.
Okay, but, I mean,
I
I'm
think
not
this was
tracking.
for, I'm trying to remember which event. Jason, do you know which?
Wasn't it
I wasn't here at
it
that
was
time.
money from the books that were sold? Or no? They got money from, and when I say they, I now gotta think of what it was.
Was it for the,
Those by Quasqui Centennial books?
yes.
And Linda Merrill's committee? I mean,
Yeah, there was money,
I mean-
money left over or.
It was for that event, though. You're right
Additional
on that.
money raised that was left over from what we gave them. We
Okay.
gave them whatever. And so they had come to city council one time years ago.
okay,
And asked if they could use the extra funds.
for this project, okay.
Right.
That's how I remember it, to do that. And we gave them, council gave them permission
Okay,
to use those extra funds. So that's where the money came, but what is it wasn't historical. Maybe it was.
was it to do with those historical plaques? Because I remember Rich and them coming in and they wanted to put plaques up and it was being paid
The
for.
plaques were for the historic preservation group, which I'm part of. But I don't know if, we haven't talked about it. I don't know if it was under the historic preservation for the mural.
Or Main Street or.
Do we know if there exists a contract?
That's my question. I don't know if there is. And since I wasn't here at the time, I need to find out. Because Rich Zedlow is working on it. But if there's not a contract, then
Makes it easier.
yeah. So, I mean, when we were talking last night, my suggestion was to try and get another artist to finish it. And then figure out how much work he had done to pay him and then go on and get it completed. So I can circle back with Rich since you talked about it today to see what we could do to expedite it a little bit more before ice cream days 2025. 'Cause
I think that would be great.
Joe,
Yeah.
Joe, just for some clarity, the city doesn't have some invoice that they're refusing to pay.
No,
We have
No.
no invoice from any painter for any mural
no,
in regards to this, correct?
Right. correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, we haven't paid him and the artist, and he doesn't have if there's no contract, then we're kind of just in limbo, so.
Right, and he's not paying it because of lack of payment, he's just,
Yeah.
for whatever
No,
reason.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but I will.
So a third party cut a deal with this guy, right? And you're talking about a contract and like Mike is very clear on, and I think that's what, the city doesn't have a bill we're not paying. The city didn't hire this guy, so who did?
Again,
I
I'd
don't
have to
know.
find
We
out.
don't know, we don't.
I think it was Main Street,
Okay,
that committee, I think it was them, but.
I
we'll
don't,
have
I
to
mean,
find
just
out.
from the Main Street, I don't have a contract though in any of my stuff, but I will check with Rich and find
Yeah.
out, so
Should
we
be
can.
meeting notes though,
Mm,
maybe?
Main
Who
Street
knows?
doesn't have a separate
Okay.
entity from the chamber board.
Gotcha.
But again, if it was I'm gonna say
I
a
think it's-
one-off, but,
I think it sounds like a perfect weekend project for the city council.
yeah.
I would volunteer to
It
get
does
up on
sound
the
like
lowest
that.
scaffolding possible and help with that.
Bring a paint sprayer and just repaint it all white.
I was gonna say.
Right, it's not coming.
Good, wouldn't it?
All right, on that note.
Okay.
I volunteer.
We'll figure it out.
I'll find out.
Thank you.
Not to
Thank you.
volunteer.
And I was almost done. I have enjoyed representing the third ward, and I plan to run for reelection.
Very good. Thank you. Clark?
I think Mark's done a really good job. Thumbs up. I think you've been very good, Mark. Just what I mentioned earlier. I want to get this whole tax discussion on an agenda so that this body can make a decision on what we're doing moving forward. I have no problems with what we've done in the past. I think it needs to be under review, and I think that in another 4 years, no matter what we do. Because I think some of this stuff just shouldn't be, this is the way it is. So that, I want that on the agenda very soon. Okay?
Brian?
I don't have anything else.
Brad?
Nothing for me either.
Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second?
Have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Not even